Okay, I don't know how much do I have to record this, and currently not next to a chart, but this is quite interesting. I have been blocking out a sexual assaults attack aiming at my bumhole, strangely enough. Perhaps because I talked about how they rape also boys and women, um, to detach them from the roots, and basically to detach them from the crown, and basically to make them greedy and make them relationally unstable. So as I was doing that, I the fact that I was blocking that, okay, kind of enforcing my value of willing consent or not. Um, I can see if I'm not in willing consent, then enforcing my no by every means necessary. Some eurekas dawned on me, and that's some dots I haven't been connecting. So I'm gonna try to take it from the personal to the general. Um, when I was in academia, I was studying politics and governance mainly because I couldn't like travel more and I wanted a degree. So, um, but the one thing that I was completely naive and blind to was where I wondered. And that's something that happens to me in life. People tend to go through classes and series of recruitments to go through certain experiences or places, and I just stumble upon them, sometimes eagerly trying to get out. Um, Malefic magic backfires. Of course I'm going to say it. Of course I'm going to say it. So the thing is that I was the only person with an Israeli and a Dutch nationality around, and I guess there are a lot of like recruitments. Um, cutting back to years after, turning to political assassination prevention, um, that sparked the thing because the similarities was so much with people who escape violence and so on that I just realized that whenever a person is running, let's say, to politics, but I think also being a celebrity, I just think there are different circles that have something engaged within them, and what happens is that there is a series of interweb espionage, and all espionage is sexpionage, and all sex work is sexpionage. Which means none of that is sexpionage, because to get information correct, as it would happen to me right now, you need to enforce willing consent. So with no willing consent, they actually torture the people to forget what they said, but what they said might be very incorrect because it's not complete. You run into fragments of people, and you have to comprise a whole with that. As a person who has been channeling people that were also politicians and stuff, that is like, to comprise something from that is very challenging, not only because people are complicated, but because they genuinely go through those defragmentations in this mkultra thingy. um, and the way they try to make you forget things, like the hypnosis and stuff. My god, when I learned about collective forgetting in politic and governance, by Professor René, then you just think about the media, but when you talk about like actually programming a person to forget something, that is really intense. And I just, and it's also true that when people, if the job of intelligence were just like to connect people, uh, that find rapport together and let them share information, they would practice willing consent. okay? And I go back to the teachings of actually one of our doctors, which was Idon Evo, that was talking about the war and the ceasefires, and he said very correctly so, very likely it was intelligence, that at the ceasefires in the Second World War, the frontiers were playing soccer with each other. So when it came to shoot again, they were shooting in the air and they had to replace the soldiers. Same thing with politics, okay? And this is why very likely it's what happened to Peter as well. And and that's the thing, because when you actually get to know people, you share information, the natural thing is to come to agreements, okay? And in general, you would think that that is what you're designed to do, okay, to kind of keep like a world peace going on. But that's actually the other way around. And literally from the birth of these people, whether they be in the media or in politics and so on, and those things really intermesh. When you get to the core of that, okay, that's been kind of like an influencer, okay, it is an influencer, by all means. And they literally, the people that are in the cult are literally born into horrid torture to try to keep them from creating and preserving peace, which is actually the natural order of things, the more I understand that. In any case, when I was like the only person with dual nationality and Dutch nationality around, I want to tell you one thing: an entire degree that went between the years 2013 to 2015 in politics and governance in BGU, which is one of the top ranking universities in the world. I don't know if today, but back then, there was no mentioning of Netherlands. And that was really important elections in 2017, because Peter de Vries was running to be opposition to Geert Wilders back then. It was a very intense one, okay, with a lot of foul language, and literally, I don't know who was plagiarizing who or what. They both told to say the same thing, because in Mano Yuan, you're just told to say something and you say it. But I'm kind of thinking that this works in actual politics. But the thing is that when a person goes from, let's say, journalism to, in Israel we had Yair Lapid, but when a person goes from journalism to politics, then it's a different circle of sexpionage. And only now, in 2024, almost 5, I understand that Ido guy was actually trying to connect me to that circle, which of course I practice willing consent, and that would be a no-go for me, which I had the privilege to have this as a no-go because I'm an exo-cult planet, okay? Because I was privileged to not be born into the cult, although my name is Jungblood. And that was literally, and the fact that I practice willing consent saved my life, not because like Peter is a bad person, but because of the fact that they don't actually practice espionage, okay? They don't actually practice the thing. So what happens with that is that nobody actually is in a place of willing consent in whichever intimate situations that they are, of both sides, and for like that didn't get to that, okay? But the thing is that the information is not flowing through correctly, because you need willing consent for information to be flowing through. If you want to mention something in the comments, I will do a video about our chakras. How does information flow through? How important it is to connect, which is sexuality. And you know, for some of us, we actually receive downloads when we do that, because that's usually how our body works. And that time was strange in so many ways. But the thing is that they keep trying to recruit you, and how should I say it? The point would eventually be to assassinate Peter. So I'm very glad that nothing happened, okay? And the name was not mentioned, because they don't mention to you the name, but they kind of test, and very likely either that Ido guy or somebody else would be assigned to be like my handler. and then they would very likely torture me and put me into certain situations or training to do sexpionage, and then like try to get that information to learn when to expand, okay, when to replace Peter. They later, by the way, tried to do that with Wilders. So, but from afar, like totally from mind control, telepathy, and stuff like that. To which, of course, dankjewel. To which, of course, I didn't consent. I do not consent, and I never consented to be recruited. I was privileged enough to live in central Israel when I was in my high school, and when they came to us from like the intelligence or 8200, they said that Israeli intelligence developed a method that is torture-free to investigate. And when I say torture-free, they mean also psychological torture-free. The simple truth people are eager to speak, and if your goal is simply to maintain peace relations, that is not that difficult. As I thought, because I thought that this is the big challenge, is to how to keep a world peace. But apparently so much energy is invested into perpetual world war that they keep having to perpetuate this energy because people keep whistleblowing, even if they've been tortured so much so that their only connection to joy is to torture other people. Even then. And I'm like, oh my God, I had no idea that this works in this way. One of the key person that helped me figure out that was Eliza, and Eliza was sexpionage for USSR. Again, she was recruited to intelligence. She thought she was going to do great for the country. Then she was suddenly raped until she had to make one person, the only person that rapes her, and she had to make him fall in love, because that way she would be raped only by him and not have to go through like all these things. And then they turned her into sexpionage for the USSR, which is now fallen, and she's out of that dumb fuckery. Some organized crime person was arrested thanks to her, and again, okay, they basically raped her to make her able to have sex without love. That's something similar happened to me, like from afar, from mind control, in 2007 by a certain musician. And that was like, that backfired so malefically for him as well. And that is something that I didn't understand, because it was not like, because it happens from like astral attack, then you don't know what is happening, but it kind of like that the experiences, like the weird shit that happened with rape conjoining with something that they program you to have, like euphoria. So you try to see what is wrong with your psyche, and immediately receive a dozen of taggings, but no actual help. And then you go to university to rehabilitate yourself, and you're the only person with the dual nationality, and they try to do that. By the way, I don't blame necessarily Ido. He is himself programmed, so he would have like really benefic personas, and then like really, really, really malefic. Okay, like shit, fuck, scary, malefic. Saturn 22 in Aquarius is that thing which works against him, and that's like a big deal. But the fact is, I finally realized why what they wanted from me when it came to Peter. Because I'm like, okay, that's what they wanted. They wanted me to do sexpionage, but they didn't want me to do like espionage that is supposed to maintain world peace, because he was like the new player around in the Tweede Kamerkade, the Dutch Parliament. But they actually wanted very likely to assassinate him. And then it turns out so that after he died, I was homeless in Netherlands, and again there were attempts to recruit me. I was standing to political assassination, then learning about the hermaphrodite cults, and then learning about Demming, and learning about Tachi, and then like all these things were actually I was actually receiving the information, but because I was practicing willing consent, I received the accurate information, the accurate thing, whether it was channeling or not, or whatever was trying to interfere in between. And was not going with the agendas of like, let's expose this person was in a Peter ring so we can make it a red instead of blue. But like, hey, do we want to tend to expendable children, and to the fact that perpetuates a world war? And interestingly enough, that Peter guy was also speaking against the WHO. And this is very strange because you run into the myriad of the things that that the people did, and they all grow into death camps. Okay, so like don't like the only thing I would say to you is like the people who went through a Holocaust-like situation, and I believe every peoples have their own Holocaust. So what they had to do during those situations, kind of like what these people have to do, and are born into it, most of them. Okay, so don't expect a clean record, you know. So it's very difficult to tell what is going on, and the fact that they program different personas into people, that will give you a lot of really divided information that is very difficult and challenging to sift and sort through. But the willing consent is the thing, and they still, like, they isolate you, they torture you, and then they do a love bombing thing, and then what they do is that they convince each person that the other person is like into them. Okay, and this is so funny. But they do all the psychological tricks, and the psychologist that was involved, later when I escaped, the reason I escaped what they tried to do was I didn't know what they were trying to do, and it was like, I'm a TA, one of the people I'm a TA to is trying to get like a conversation, and I'm trying to figure out what's going on, sitting in the pub with us and so on, and all in all, it seems like he's trying to like give you advice and so on, and I kind of stay cool and I don't really get what is going on, and then he suddenly starts to, like, he creates a certain rapport after a couple of months, and then he starts to try and like psychologically control you, like but control not just psychologically, like really get into your mind and try to move through your body and stuff like that. I'm like, that I'm fuckery, like I'm out. I'm out. Okay, so people tried for me to get to file complaint for sexual harassment, because yes, there was also like some things that he was saying that could be considered sexual harassment, but for me it was like, no, you're just trying to get me into corrupted system, and the very people that try to convince you, they usually do it for the cloud, and they usually just trying to expand you. Okay, but when you go out of this situation, you go through torture. That I remember also in 2007 when I went out of this connection with this person, I went through like torture, and it was not like him torturing me. It felt like something very weird, and things from the World War came, so I didn't know what to make of it. And then another like I was seeing like a World War, and that was like really malefic. But it also created a certain situation where it was not just like blaming him. I was just finding like there is something cultist, and I had no idea this is like the global, the Masonic thingy. And I was getting nascence, but I didn't connect between like enlightenment and all the philosophers and that dumb fuckery. Okay, so on top of that, I was doing apprenticeship by someone who was filmmaker, but was also doing relationship coaching, and she had no idea I have CPTSD. So I was one of the first people she made this trying to apply things. So I was all kind of like, if a man talks to you, they mean of what they say. There is no back message. There is no, and that model so does not comply to people who do this mkultra thingy. And you have to practice this on literally every man you meet. Okay, so every man, whether it's it's your students, whether it's your neighbor, whether it's this, whether it's that, literally every man you meet, you have to practice the fact of what they say to you is what they mean to say to you. They don't have like an inner complexity. Then you run into a person that literally tries to get into your nervous system and moves your body, like you try to move, you're like shape shifting into you. Okay, that's what's up. And And you don't even have the concepts for that. So of course I looked into, my thesis was philosophy of medicine in epistemic view. So I looked into the question of spirit and matter, but just because I needed a research question, I was like, how do people look into the question of spirit and matter? Little did I know that I was literally aiming for the right spot. But I was like, it's like, you don't know if I was targeted for my thesis. And then there was this attempt to recruit me to espionage. That was like, my Dutch nationality wasn't even, like, it wasn't even, like, I had no idea from these things, okay? I come from a simple family, working class, and I have been disabled from being able to work, so I chose studies, and that's what my story is. So if you think about like all these big important people, but when I see for how they do like sexpionage, I'm like, no, you have to have a willing consent, because with willing consent, you get the information flowing through. It means you have to breathe in. If you actually feel rapport with someone, you have to breathe into it and allow information to go through. It's also if you're dating someone or something like that. So you're not holding yourself back and you're being authentic to yourself, okay? But if you feel something you don't like, kind of push it through, like people trying to assault me now as I speak, okay? It's kind of like, hey, that no, that no. And then what happens is if you're assaulted, you need to speak. That was also the pre-Me Too stage, where you needed to speak out and publicly and to be believed, okay? And the fact is that the funny thing about, I learned, okay, curating psychosis is basically about believing the patient, genuinely believing the patient. Also, if you have people that come to you with like a childhood trauma, it's like you really have to hold a place to believe the patient. And housing first independent of ability to work for a limited time. That conjunction in Finland was curing psychosis. And when you understand that this cures psychosis, you're like, okay, what is psychosis? You get it? And this way, literally, all the information came to me that I needed to know at the time. And the more I blocked these sexual assault attacks, the more eurekas come to mind. And I was like, okay, they were thinking to use me and to use me for the dual nationality to somehow mingle with that new circle of like sexpionages to get to assassin whomever you wanted to assassin at a given time. And what came out of it is I began to tend to both the fact that all sex work is sexpionage, okay, and for me it was like, hey, no, like from when I left my job at academia, then I was just like, hey, to be able to say, even because this person was way older than me, and I was like, hey, to be able to even say yes to a man, I need to be able to say no, and for that no to be respected. Otherwise, even the structure, so either the structure of workplaces of academia needs to change, okay? It's not about romance and stuff. And I was like, I had no idea for even what was intention behind all that, and that is how they do sexpionage, okay? And I'm like, my God, they were intending to use me to assassin Peter or something of that sort. And I only learned about this after he died, was assassinated eventually, because he spoke against the WHO. And I tend to look at his death and something pulls me in, because I'm like, the way the police operated is just what happens when women leave a violent husband, or when even men, I don't know, leave some violence or work or something like that. It was like, that's just the way they operated. And that was why I was trying to channel Peter, which immediately gave me these countries, North Korea, and eagerness to help, okay? And the fact is that later they would try to do that again, which I would tend to political assassination instead. but we have to tend to expandable children. Okay, it's also what I told Wilders, because we have to tend, and when I say I told, I mean publicly. It's not like there were private conversations or anything like that. We have to turn to expandable children, because this is what keeps perpetuating that. Now when they have a world war, they want to expand everyone, including Rutte and Trump and Musk and all of these people, because they already have the new generation set up. And when you think about the new generation, then yes, they would also try that with the new generation. And so that's why you see people sometimes are not warming up to you, or they're kind of turning the other way, because they're all fearing that you're sexpionage, or and that means they're going to be assassinated. So that makes people both afraid of sex, afraid of women, afraid of men, like afraid of love, afraid of relationships, breathing drugs only, and showing love by having a judge helping drug lord reduce stigma on drug users because they need it for the stress. Okay, that's stemming and baby sin. And then he had to betray baby sin, which I think WHO also gave the order. And this is so intensely crazy. And you see how this reaches me when I block these assaults. And I'm like, damn. That's a plot twist I was not seeing. And the fact that the fact that pre-Me Too, I defended my sovereignty and my sexual sovereignty, while not being in a hurry to demonize anyone, not only saved my life, there's at least 2 living politicians whose life are saved by that, at least when it comes to me. And if you think about the hermaphrodite, or the way they try to deplete both yang and yin, so both masculine, feminine, or whichever you want to call it, to perpetuate world war. I went through a lot, okay? But also the people that they wanted basically to send me for went through a lot. And eventually Peter would speak against WHO and would be assassinated. But even the people that you see at the West, they went through a lot, okay? And they are expendable too, okay? It's just like, that's the generation. The only person that was within the cult and tried to exit the cult and managed sort of kind of successfully by losing his Dutch nationality was Hans de Medma. And I talk about it so much. Like, there's another video when I talk about this. And that's like, my God, that wasn't even on my radar, because for me, studies, it was like a retreat. I was like pretty disabled and confused from the entire work market, because it's all espionage. This is why they have sexual harassment of both men and women, because it's all this weird cult where you see this mkultra everywhere. You can't do a manicure without mkultra. I went to check for if there is a good plan for my phone. This is why it's right now not connected to internet. And the girl meeting me, and the place looks very hot, like it's not cool enough, and the water is like in glasses, and I'm like, where have I gone? It's like, are they like planning to put you in the oven or something? Like, what's happening? And she kind of tells me, well, I cannot open your phone until the weekend, even though I'm a client. You have to go to your bank and renew like whatever thing that they never put it out on time, and then it hurts the credit score. And I was telling her, like, you know what they're going to do with all this social credit score and stuff like that? Like, we think about your job. And she said, no, don't worry for me. I do many other things. And I said, okay, well, what are you doing? And she said, I can't tell you. I was going for my phone, woman. My phone. My telecommunication company. I was just going to fix my phone. Was going to pay you the bill so you can fix my phone, but you can't open my phone back. Because you need me. Like, I had money to pay for her in cash. She needed me to update something that she can take down the money whenever the fuck she wants, and they never take it out on time. That's why I stopped with that. And then the lady tells me, no, I can't open your phone. She doesn't want my cash. So I gotta tell my mama, I tried. Because all I did is for my mama. Because when I don't have a cell phone, you hear me talking like this, there's only one person in the room. And we are both big talkers, okay? But that's how prevalent it is. You can't get a fucking job. So I said I will retreat. I will go to studies. That's where you really get the Masons, okay? And then why politics? Well, it's close to traveling and some English to preserve for my English. And then I went for the second degree for politics. You're going to laugh at me because they let me speak. And that was the gun that was placed in the second act that was going to shoot, that was going to invoke the second in the seventh. But the fact that from that point, for the point that from all I know is something that looks like sexual harassment, but they get into like this mind control thing. And then I go to therapy. Because my first reaction was like, after what happened to me in 2007, I was like, something must be fucked up with me. Let's see what is fucked up with me and fix that so I can have healthy relationships, healthy business, healthy this, healthy dumb fuckery. It's all mkultra. If you are healthy, you can't go to work. They literally paid me not to work because I fucking whistleblowed on everyone. It's just my body won't comply with that shit. And they kept trying to torture, and again and again and again tried to torture. The more that they tried to torture, the more I exposed, and then it got international. But the fact that like this 3 years standing to somebody's political assassination, and on the 4th year finding out, because it's been already 3 years since Peter's death, find it out that I was one of the people that they were very likely trying to send this espionage to, who knows if not even assassinate. Because I got the Mars 22 conjuncting his sun, but it's retrograde. All it would take is for him to be in the room and him to try to assault me, because will and consent is so important. On that I would kill a guy. All it would take. Fortunately, we never met when he was alive because they program people. And from his side, they would try to program him, so they would tell him, be like Loverboy, because otherwise she will kill you. That's all it takes. My Mars is next to his sun. These guys are astrologers. My Mars 22 was next to his sun. And back then I was not 36 yet. And Guido was for me to hurry. He said study in United States. Okay, he wasn't mentioning Netherlands. But also when I was traveling to Netherlands, I didn't know that it was not just a stop. Okay? That's what you get when you block sexual assault and you enforce a willing consent. Had they managed to sexually assault me and program me, they would get me to assassinate Peter. Only now, as I speak that, I understand this. Because my Mars 22 is assassin, okay? But it's assassin of assassins. So they would have to get him to attack me, very likely sexually, and then I would murder him. because you are programmed to do both, okay? You're programmed to seduce and you're programmed to murder, just like Annika Lucas told you. And if they didn't manage to do that with girls, then they bring a woman who's a bit older, that is at consenting age. And that was the thing. And when I only learned about it after his death. And then they were trying to assassinate me already because I went against World War. I'm not talking about World War, I'm talking about against perpetuating everlasting war. And so did Peter. He went against, because he spoke against the WHO. He knew what was coming. For some way, I think the first, after this country is North Korea, I got that even he was not aware for the level of corruption. But I was homeless at that time, so it was more important to show for me how to stay out if I see somebody holding a child, something like that, to point the camera, like he filmed Hollandier, to point the camera, to film, fuck it, to film, yes, Europe, not Europe, fuck it, to film. It's kind of like I knew the rules, but the rules didn't know me, as his son talked about. And when they tried to recruit me to human trafficking, to go out, for this Galobina to go out of there. And when I was in the police, to stay, not to move, not a second. And only then a woman came to me and said for the eye and all for the... And then they told me it was 14 minutes walk. I took taxi because I fortunately had last 30 euros. Then it takes 14 minutes drive. And for the driver, after me escaping the human trafficking, for the driver, in the middle of the highway, I tried to open the door because I was like, this was supposed to be 14 minutes walk. What is going on? And he said to me, no, don't worry, it's traffic, because it was taking more than 40 minutes drive. That was my first day in Amsterdam. After entire night walking in the street, so. And you turn to all people, police, Polaris, nada. No one. They thought I was immigrant. Okay? Then I would begin to see things, okay, like in the shelter, what happened, and the people, the nurses that didn't have shifts during the pandemic, and the person that comes every day with another suitcase from the KLM. And what else was there? Oh, in the airport to go. This is deportations. Wilders. Deportations. Departures, arrivals, departures. So what pandemic? And you need, for the vaccine, you need to show them something. You need internet, but you have no internet as Schiphol. So you see, the entire thing is fucked up. But the shelter was GGD, was basically already WHO. And the company that went to represent me for the municipality, that they couldn't do much because I was Dutch at the time, okay? But they couldn't do much. But the thing is, there was from this company that very likely was belonging to, I didn't check this, yes, but was belonging to what Deming did with the baby scene. Okay, so that you have, because they represented people that take drugs, but I said, fortunately, I'm privileged, I don't have drug addiction problem, but they say, it's no problem, you can come to us, it's okay, because they needed me, okay, to vouch for them, because they wanted to represent the people and they wanted hard drugs to be legalized in Netherlands. And when I see what's going on, I understand. I understand, Peter, because if somebody is being born into rape cult, They can't have love, they can't have sex, they can't have good relations. You cannot speak with someone. And you know who this Ido guy, he is very big fan of the red groups, okay, the red soccer groups. So I think that would be Liverpool. I could get executed for getting it wrong. So you're like, say whatever you want to say, spill whatever you need to hear, okay, but don't get that group wrong. We used to laugh at him that he must remember his marriage day with his wife according to the game at the same day. And the Hapoel thingy. So the red, the Hapoel thingy, there's the red group of soccer in Israel. They say we are loyal to Hapoel, we're not loyal to the country. But the red in Hapoel, which is supposed to be labor, working class, is a representative of the Rosicrucians and of Rothschild. Also Ajax. Yes, also Ajax. It's true. But that's why I'm mad, because it's very much like Jaguar Wright says the term black on black for Jewish money. It's actually Vatican money, but okay. And like she said, the currency is not the same currency. So maybe she's right with it. I don't know. Like, who knows? But it's the same thing. They turn red on red for the rob bank. Because that was not me and Peter, that was Ido, a red. And Peter was a fan of Ajax, which is also red. Not only that, I think he was agent for selling tickets for them for something like that. So the entire family is red, so they turn red on red for Rosicrucians. But the red in those reds is Rosicrucians. That's the implication of that. So that, like, people have no trust in anyone, understandably so. And they always, kind of like Tupac. You have to worry about somebody that you wrapped up way back. And then what happens is that the only thing they can breed is white. So they show love for supporting the fact that people who are taking drugs to reduce stress will be housed. You could say it's interest, it's power, it's this, it's business, all this is true, but it's also the people that are discriminated against. In this really, really weird, split, dissected world of entire did economy, okay? And I'm like, that was 2014, 2015. Then Peter ran, I think, in 2017, him and Wilders. Then Peter said, I'm not going to politics, and I so get it. But they already got to speak against WHO. Then they say the state witness, because of course it would help the state witness. No matter how much you program a person, okay, well, you got your persona, then it's going to leak. And that leaked, okay? So, and I back off assaults, and I'm like, what the fuck do they want from me, okay? Because I wasn't litigating anyone. I was writing my satire to curate myself, okay, from this. And all this taking for to Netherlands and this and that and whatnot. And I'm like, why? Like, really? What? I'm just another person. Why all this? Why all this? Well, I'm the person with the dual nationality. And I'm like, okay. I didn't know that. Oh, damn. And I remember during the Me Too, I wrote a note about the Me Too. My satire was mainly about the cult and how they keep perpetuating science progresses in Italian strike. And I literally said that. And that's like, with the issue of world peace, I said Hayozma leMilchama b'Shalom, which basically means the initiation for the war in peace. The war against peace, okay? The initiation for the war against peace in 2017. And then I wonder, why are you all after me? And I don't think they're after me. That's the thing. I'm just trying to curate myself. And I try to see, I say, okay, I'll try to do that. Then I see other survivors, okay, people beginning to recover. They grow their crops, they this, they that. So I say, okay, I'm going to grow my crops and this and that. And then this happens and this happens and this happens. I was like, come on, now I have to expose all of you, come on. And I said, the more they try to solve, the more I expose, the more I this, the more I that. Now I blocked one serious major attack. And I'm like, well, they were trying to get me to do like sex espionage because Peter was going to politics. And as I'm speaking with you, I'm like, of course, I have Mars 22, which is assassin, next to his Sun 22. That's conjunct. But he's a night chart. And this Mars is not a malefic. This is why he didn't die from the gunshots. He died with his Saturn is in 2 degrees Sagittarius, which is Jupiter. His Jupiter is in Virgo. Jupiter, Virgo has to do with pharmaceuticals. And that Jupiter is opposing that Mars that is opposing, that in Pisces next to his midheaven. So he was murdered with something, he was shot because of something to do with work. But this Saturn is sitting pretty in his 6th house for what he serves to people. And the structure there had to do with pharma, where he spoke against WHO. And it was that Saturn that took him down. Okay, it was a structure. I said something is government, it's politics, it's something that took it down. Okay. And the thing is, the way they presented to me Peter, they didn't say his name, they didn't say the phrase, they didn't say Peter, nothing. It was in 2015, it was already after that was like the weird mind control thingy, and I was like, I'm not keeping there. But they was trying to kind of like sweeten, and then he was trying to like talk, like say, oh, you're half Dutch, or you're Dutch, and there's this guy in Netherlands that I was seeing this show about people that switched sides, and he was talking about the Corvan out. Okay, I was like, oh, that was this guy was a crime journalist, and then he like switched sides, and then he said, oh, we are like this, we are like that, and I'm like, not answering, not replying, not anything to do, and I had no idea who he was talking about either, but it was not going anywhere for me. And I stopped, but it would be only when I would be in Netherlands. I was like seeing that, the ad for Peter's assassination was a couple of months after, and I would get in that person again through the same mkultra thing. And now I understand it's going. It's like, this is a person you need to know. It's like, okay, fine. Maybe try to correct it. Oh, fine, okay. Let's see who's this person. But they tried to present him like he was this drug lord or something. So all the time trying to make sure that I will be in the Nova. You have no idea how much pressure I got to suddenly fly to Amsterdam one way. And I said, well, who's going to help me there? Today there was this, bombing thingy. Lynch bombing, whatnot. I addressed it in another video. But that was like, I was so not connecting the dots because I was so not in this world at all. And then the way they do is like one person is the handler, which I guess they either tried to get that Ido guy to do, but it didn't work. They tried to get that Itamar person to do, that Itamar own person to do, and the psychologist. And when that didn't work, they just tried to assassinate me. Uh, but I just tended to political assassination. So that's something. And this is someone's death, and something bothered me about Peter's death. I'm telling you. And I waited for 3 years because the family was grieving. They was going through a lot and this and that. And I was doing water expense upon cooling because literally Peter had sun over my 22 Mars. So that's kind of like a part of what I do in life. A kind of rediscovery of myself and so on. But that was so fucking weird. And I keep locking these assaults and this. And you know, when I saw Peter was a two, like a two spirit, you know, the two gender thing that they do with the two, that was kind of, how should I say it? So much blockade, it's such a blockade. It's like, you're not supposed to access this information. You know, fuck it. His son is showing that. Oh God. And that kept coming up, kept coming up, kept coming up. And I kept trying to block, you know, assaults. And I was just like, okay, I just try to keep, to go on with my life. Oh God. But you see, that's the importance of willing consent. That's the difference between the people who the more access you have to willing consent, the more you'll do what I do, and the less you'll do what that Delano guy did. And I tell you, it was not for the cloud. That money is nothing. But that order is coming from Saturn, it's coming from structure. Structure of expanding Jupiter, religious Jupiter, pharmaceutical or medical Jupiter Virgo, that does mass murder Jupiter Virgo on Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda is both to prevent, is the big bear, to prevent mass murder, but also to create this. Peter had Jupiter on Al-Qaeda, which means they wanted him to be Centaurian. Okay, that's why he said his son, his children, or his son, and we know from Royce, because Royce wrote the book, that he said, I promise you I will live to 100, but what they would ask Peter to do to live to 100 is to do a democide, and he spoke against for this WHO who's planning democide. And they recruited Peter because Peter had a Jupiter on Al-Qaeda. Peter had a planet on Al-Qaeda where he could do that. And that Jupiter was also ruling his Mars and midheaven. They thought, oh, that guy would do that. But that backfired because it takes so much torture to put humanity through to do that. And if you watch Miss That for Slachafer, you watch and you see for the MK, you see the world symbolism, you see all these things, okay? Peter interviewing a woman, you know he's being so emotional rapport, and suddenly, like, some strike with the, what was the episode? It's like a sudden strike, like another side of him comes up, and I'm like, what was I just watching? Okay? And if you see that, you see that. But when it came to that, he managed to speak against WHO, which means he had to negate his own mkultra stuff inside. Because they tried to hypnotize them to forget things. But that's an internal battle that nobody can talk to anybody about anything. And also, when it came to me, I was just trying to regain. Okay, I knew nothing about psychic attack, so I knew nothing about defending from psychic attack. I didn't know it was possible. I just knew that what they call psychosis is basically something you cure with housing first and open dialogue. And even the two people that Ido and Itamar guy that were supposed to be my handlers, basically, when they had parts of personalities that were like whistleblowing and then torturing. And that Itamar guy, he works for choosing which children to kidnap from the welfare. Sorry. Oh God. Oh damn. Entire degree about politics and governance and not one mention of Netherlands. It's one of the most important countries for what's going on right now. Not even just because of the ICC. Now the whole thing, I don't even know if I think, yeah, what, fuck. It can be that they were just trying to check up and see if Peter is not complying, then they will assassinate him. You know, Wilder's under 24/7 watch because he speaks against the child in the infanticide and the femicide in Islam. So they use it as, you know, the kind of agenda. And he had to comply with COVID and all these things. But still, he's imprisoned. And on all these assassins, the green Adidas, the China Mastra, okay, that they sent to him is Muslim Brotherhood of Satan that you can see through the verse. You see, that's the power of willing consent. When you practice willing consent, you get the information. And the more they try, the more they die when it comes to assaulting, when it comes to all these things. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wait, that's why the Tachi guy did not find a single lawyer in the entire country that doesn't do representation of sex offenders, including sex offenders in children. Now, it's not that people don't need representation, but for to practice, and I'm a great believer, the reason I did not litigate, and I got information after information after information when it came to law and juristics, things that, you know, like from the heaven dropping on me. But the reason I did not litigate, because I understood there's a court, and I understood Supreme Court is involved as well. And now I know that there are the expandable children as well. But the thing is that I truly believe what helps people to cure from being the victim of this is helping also offenders, because it's both an issue of willing consent and self-trust and having a yes, no, and maybe respected, okay? For offenders, they have it from one side and then they take it out. That they act out on, okay, another person. That's why psychologists do that. And that's that satanic ritual abuse that they are talking about, okay? That's the thing that trains these people. So when you come to curate from possibility that you may have had a sexual violence in childhood, even if not by family, immediately you send to all the wrong people, so that God forbid you will not heal. You see, I was making all the right steps to curate. And that's why all of them had to fall like Tower of Cards. But that's why I had so many obstacles along the way, because I wasn't taking the detours of suppression. I said, I'm not going to litigate. Litigation is not about punishment, and it's not about revenge. It's about change. And the prison system is not working currently in a way that's contributing to that. And so I said, before I enter litigation, I need to curate myself so I can sift and sort and so that I can retrieve my ability to speak. Confront an offender is very difficult, okay? Confront someone's situation that they were the offender towards. It's very, very difficult. And to get to that stage, you need to speak, and you need to speak publicly, because this is the exposure of a phenomena and not of a person. But the way that this is perceived is like there is an ambush on a person, which is not the case when you intend to just heal yourself. But you also see that this is a pattern. So of course there are more people involved, but you think like, why everyone is so, why is everyone so, what is going on? Why does this keep happening? Because everyone is involved with this cult, and you cannot have a job, whether it's by protection. Okay, even my makler, okay, my real estate agent, he probably had protection running up to him, and then the pressure on, and then he gets, one MK Ultra, one mind control away from saying something wrong to one of the tenants, and then kaboom. 40 years of real estate. And by the way, I checked for the apartment that's not registered. It's because 40 years ago they genuinely did not register until you sell the property. Okay? But when it came to the MK Ultra attack, either he genuinely don't remember because they tortured them to forget, and then it's 40 years, and now when I try to speak to him, he's not even ready for the idea, and then he thinks I'm immediately against him, so that backfires and that creates enmity. Granted, the fact that I'm Jungblut and the family is very likely Moroccan, okay, so it's like, let's add another flavor to that. And it's all orchestrated, you better bet, because I was not finding any place, and that place looked like paradise, so... Okay, but you see that, and I've seen there's so many people, so many house flippers, so many this, so many that. So it's also these things. And of course it's enraging, okay? Of course, when that Ganobina girl tried to recruit me, and she was working for the bank, okay? She was just doing her like routine check at the street in Amsterdam, and when she was trying to recruit me, and I escaped her, and I saw the sadistic side of her coming up before I entered any apartment. Okay, of course I despised her. You're enraged at that at the face that you see. Of course it's like that. Jaguar Wright's son was sacrificed allegedly by Beyonce Knowles Carter. Okay. Okay, let's just hold the possibility that this is true, that this is not a lie. Just imagine how much could you be seeing beyond that? And that's the child that she went to go to sex work, which is all we know is MK Ultra. She might thought she's going to sex work, but you end up MK Ultra, because all sex work is espionage. Because she had a son and she needed to make sure for this son, he sacrificed his life because he didn't want his mother to be sacrificed, allegedly by Beyonce Jay-Z, but it's not by Beyonce Jay-Z, it's by what the money's coming from, the Rosicrucians. The funding for the Rosicrucians, okay, for whichever currency that is. So they keep perpetuating traumas of betrayal. That's why your 8th house, which is your finances, your joint finances as you marry, is house of trauma and betrayal and death and rebirth and birthing. Okay, how is trauma to do with birthing? Well, it isn't if you're born with willing consent, but the economy has to match. See, now I have to wait until I get my phone in check. Then I can upload this video. But this is, it's going to be Peter Fest on 14 November, just 2 days before my mom born, 16 November. And that's like we are at 7 November. No, 7 was, it's not today. 7 was, I think, 8 November. Sun already in Scorpio, that's for sure. But that's me blocking. And I know something's always coming up around his 2 death times, because it was 6 Juli and then it was 15 Juli. And November, last year it was all a war, so I didn't know. I don't remember, okay? But at this November 14, that's the birthday, for sure things are coming up. This is why this is happening. Every time, every year. Every year. And I know things are happening right now because that's like a week before his birthday. And I know things are coming up. Like there's always a revelation. It's a solar return for the chart, okay? Which is going to be next to my 22 Mars. And now I'm discovering that there was a possibility that they wanted me to be in the circle of sexpionages. And the very likely that they wanted me to be on the queue to assassinating Peter, because Mars, the planet with which you kill, is on the degree of killing next to the son of Peter. And I was the only person with the 2 nationalities in the politics and governance in my year. And that was just the year that Peter was running, okay? But everybody talked about Trump, but still nobody mentioned Netherlands in the entire degree. How can we not talk about the ICC? How can we not talk about something? They talked about the colonialism in Congo. Okay, fine. And then they always portray like, yeah, this is the people, the that. The Netherlands was a small country, so they needed the colonialism to be very cruel and blah, 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 blah. Not at all. That's not what's up. It's not a small country financially, okay? That's not what's up, okay? And yeah, whatever. Not going to even begin to talk about like how indigenous train to spirits, but because I already spoke about this. So, but now I see it's a week before Peterfest, and I'm beginning to receive downloads. This one is giant. And you see, that was me. And he's a lawyer, so he had to represent, I don't know if he represented sex offenders or he had to like comply with that. I know I wrote something about Instagram, but kind of rehabilitating of sex offenders. And he got a backlash, and I was part of the backlash. It's due and it's due, but respect is due and it's due as well. So that was the thing. And I'm like, why do things keep coming up? Okay, so I have a nodal reversal with Peter. I was thinking is that I was like, his sun next to my Mars. Okay, so it helped me with the weather expensive on cooling when Uranus was on the 22, and I'm like, okay, what's okay? And I keep tending to his death, which is the most profound satire when you think about the fact that somebody had the gun to try to get me to pull the trigger. And what stopped it is me enforcing willing consent by all means necessary, learning about all these mind control things, learning all the sciences needed. Because I needed to know about psychology, I needed to know about psychiatry, I needed to know about alternative approaches, I needed to know about shamanism, I needed to know about some anthropology, I needed to know about politics, I needed to know about economy. Like there's so many things, and good for me that I like knowing things. So, but the closest thing that would be the person whose sun is next to my Mars before I'm 36. And I'm now 40, but that was before I was 36. Although Peter was already in his Navamsha, but his Navamsha is even worse because he has his ascendant on my lot of spirit at the 22 degree of Taurus. So that's what I can do about this. What I can do about this is speak up. This is how, when you tend to willing consent, when you put this value up, the more, and it doesn't mean I got assaulted, okay? I got the equivalent of what people who get raped, even more than that, okay? It's not about, like, it's not, you're not to blame for what happened to you. I'm not to blame for what happened to me. It's not of what happened to me, what didn't happen to me. It's not that. It's the fact that I know I'm not to blame, and that I know I'm not imagining, because scientifically I'm not imagining, and the fact that I know, okay, that willing consent is the way to go. And I understand that the attempt to make people have sex without love, and again, this is not about casual sex and this and that, it's none of that. But to on purpose to make people have sex without love is to use them for sex espionage and mind control, because you have to torture people to get them to basically have sex with dissociation. I still suffer from that. But the very fact I put willing consent on, and that's a value for me, as a value, okay, that keeps, okay, the more I learn to deflate assaults, and the more actual information arrives to me that's actually accurate, that is actually true, whether it's telepathy, whether it's this news with that article, with this article, okay, and all these things that I wasn't even looking for. Okay, that is how it is, that is how it goes. That scares off the wrong people, but you better bet it draws in the right ones. I cannot make it up, and also I'm shocked. And you see what turned out, I'm tending to prevention of political assassination. And I could not let go of that Peter case. The family was grieving 3 years. I held it in, and it just came out of me. Quite publicly. Like, they're grieving, no, water is spent upon cooling, they're grieving, no, that was damning. Which was just the mold of the WHO. How did I manage not to become the person that is like that Delano guy, for not to assassinate Peter, but willing consent? What do they try to preach for psychology? Bas van der Kolk, what did he do? He said, oh, you have a war trauma as a man? Oh, it's no problem, rape some woman. Then they will say it's all a misunderstanding, like they did with the German parliament. It's all a misunderstanding. They didn't legalize pedophilia. No, they just re-emphasized that it was supposed to be obvious that if somebody transmits to you pedophilia material and you hold it in order to bring somebody to justice, then you are not a criminal, okay? This is supposed to be obvious. It's nothing new. They didn't have to legislate a new law for this. It's nothing new, but the only reason they emphasize this because all of them are about to be expanded. And they needed the lawyers to say, well, that person was only transferred, was only passing the Dutch. But what gets people actually not assassinated is when the more people practice willing consent, and the more people have access to willing consent, the less mind control and torture, the less political assassination. So I end up being, instead of the guy that pulling the trigger on that guy, if that guy would try to assault me, he'd be dead. You know? And y'all know how I feel about Peter. If you've been watching this channel, you know, it's, let's just put it that way. I'm not a hater. Okay? And that makes me from that person who would pull that trigger very likely on a lover or intimate partner or whatever they would program that, because the more they program, okay, they isolate you, they torture you, and then they make for the other person love bomb you, then immediately get hooked. Okay? And all that person has to do is to trigger the child assassin in you on them. That's how this works. And they would have no reason to for him to undo me, because, I mean, they would, but but I didn't know that, and they didn't know that. Okay, and I turned from this person to the person that keeps getting at Peter's death, and because I'm an exocold planet, then I get to that, and I get to that, and I get to that, and I talk about this, and it comes up. And today I'm like, well, it's a week before Peter's birthday, his solar return. That would be his sun going over my Mars. Okay, the sun going over my Mars. And that thing comes up. So moral of the story is this: willing consent is good for your longevity, but you really got to have old people practicing that. The thing to be said in favor of Peter, he spoke against WHO, which needed to be said, and no, it was not because he was drug lord or because he was this or because he was that. He had that Jupiter on Al-Qaeda that is to perpetuate mass murder or to consolidate people through grief. And he vouched out of being a Centaurian, because as much as he would love to be there for his grandchildren, that would be quite costly to cause a democide. And if he vouched for a state witness against Tachi, that very likely vouched for the family, need to be, at least for Peter, okay, then it's very likely would have, when things come to that, mention Handsome Adma, because Handsome Adma got out of the cult. And that would be supposedly betraying Deming, which he worked very closely with. But that would blow up the entire thing. And Peter was announced dead 15 Yuli, when Handsome Adma got accreditation from UN. And Hans was trying to turn to Peter as like, Peter, this Peter, da. And Trudy like, Peter rabbit hole. Well, what was the options was this, or to go Handsome Adman. What about the children? But he also chose not to be Centaurian, because that would mean Kissinger, and that would mean democide. All this digital thing, you see Misdaad Verslaggever with Peter and the digital thingy, okay? They used that for that, okay? Doesn't mean that was the intention or that was he wanted. But if you watch Misdaad Verslaggever, you can understand what was being done to the people. And then when you didn't want that to be actually executed, you had to talk about the WHO. And yes, it was taking down all the drug lords, but more so, and expanding all the people, yes, but Peter would not be expanded if he didn't talk about the WHO. But that would mean he would have to comply. So he couldn't live to 100, but he was also not a Polish guy that worked for the Moroccan guy. not that killed him, okay? And it's not where the order came from. And I said what I said was to assemble for all the people that would be involved with that. You need to assemble an assembly, okay? Then because I'm Israeli, I was some Marxist with a yacht. Then the gay is over. But I said what I said. And that's why they can't they make it very challenging for them to help the women. Because everything yin, when we accept everything yin, we accept, and this is also why they don't let Peter Ada Friends Foundation, sorry Kelly, Peter Ada Friends Foundation do the take tips from people who are psychics or astrologers or something like that. It's not because it's not accurate, okay? When you worldwide, when the police wants to locate a missing person, they go to remote viewers. And I know because I researched these things. I had a work, an essay about ESP in China, Russia. You can't get information because all of them are ESP. Okay, USA, and the different ways they study that. ESP is a sense, and because it is a sense, you cannot test it. Okay, you learn it by practicing. But people were afraid to be persecuted by the church, and where the complementary study of Gigi Young is very accurate. When they try to take you out of alignment, which is what they try to do to me, you basically can't continue. This is why also my psychic perception was kind of halted. With the torture, you do develop some psychic perception, but for that to be accurate, you need to return to will and consent. Otherwise, it's not accurate, and the information that they get is wrong, but this perpetuates continuous war. And that's my contribution, okay? So they can't let you look at the cold case with all these things, because when I look at the cold case with the chart and I see what kind of things this is related to, you know. But they won't let them do that. They won't let them do that. Which is unreasonable. And Peter was the person who said, he said, why doesn't the police work correctly? Why doesn't the police work correctly? We saw that today in Amsterdam. Okay, it's not working correctly because it's not allowed. It's not because it doesn't like Israelis or doesn't like this or because it doesn't like that. It's because it's not allowed. Even for case of Wilders, there was woman journalist that was going and doing ethical hacking into his office, in and out, in and out, in and out. She said, I could have killed the guy a couple of times, and then they had to tighten for security. These people, they have to defend themselves. The guy's a sage. But without tending to expandable children, you know what the crimes need to be done, right? And then that's what we need to tend to. On a level, not on a right-wing level, left-wing level, NATO level, this level, that level, no. On a general level, no more of that crap. On a general level. That's the only way it's going to go. You're not going to be successful with knocking down the Peter rings when you say, oh, that guy's, the blue, they are all pedos, and then the blue says, well, the reds, they are all pedos. Well, both of them mkultra. Okay, unless we tend to how this works, why it works that way, what it does, and how it's connected to what's inspired. These practices are inspired from tribes. And I said to that, and I say that again and again. I say it again and again. For Peter to be able to live to see his grandchildren would need to be in a bunker in Albania. That guy, when he was told, okay, you gotta get full security, you're literally being kidnapped or no help whatsoever. Just like, that was Peter, get me on air. That's it. That's not the guy to live in a bunker in Albania. But it's not just defending the whistleblowers, it's standing to expendable children and holding both yin and yang, willing consent, and deprogramming, which you can see from testimonials of survivors. Okay, and with satanic ritual abuse, okay, for the people in the cult, you know what the symbolism of the cult, okay? So when you see that, you see the testimonial, look for that person in another source, because they're going after the person afterwards, okay? No mentions, no name need to be mentioned. You got the structure, you know the structure, you were told to do that as well. So you know that thing. When you really want out, what are the things that would help you, okay, to banish for these assaults? Because nobody wants to live in a bunker, right? And they're all expanding, everyone, okay? And that's the truth. The truth is, if I thought this world war would be like the war that would end all wars, they thought this in World War I. I said, you know what, go ahead. But I know that as long as these children sacrificed in these monasteries, and as long they either get to deplete yang, okay, that the man cannot say yes, no, and maybe according to what he wishes, and respect someone else in the yes, no, and maybe, which is a part of that, by the way, and same for woman or for yin, and when then to connect of respect about the spirit and the matter, then that's how they create the inversions. And that's what gets them killed by the masses. So yeah, it's gonna be Peterfest. And we are, I think, don't know if it would let me see that, 8th November. It's a Mars night. Yes, 8th November. So that is 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. That's 7 days. Oh my God. That number keeps coming up. Mara was on 7th degree. Gemini. So yeah, this is going to be a week, and I don't have battery for all this. I don't have like place in my cell phone for all of that. So I'll probably be writing notes and stuff. And 14 is what? 7 twice, 7 twice. I didn't think about this. 7-11, 7 twice, 7 twice. Damn! I'm not the type to think about these things, but now that thanks for Empress Bella, thanks for, okay, not gonna say all your names, okay, don't want to put too much energy on y'all, too much heavyweight energy on y'all. Oh my God. Dang. 33. 133 to another. So yeah, this is, I'm bracing myself, and 2 days after is my mother's birthday. Okay, so this is where these 2 birthdays the magic backfires. It's Scorpio season. It's Scorpio season. Even Lucifer is upside down. So damn. When the truth comes out, that's it. This is only like, and I know what else is coming up. So keep that 7 days. 1 week, I brace myself. Oh Lord, I brace myself. This is a solo return for the records. And yeah. Damn. When you're one of the people that are supposed to be the whistleblowers in each season, you have junctures in your life, but this is getting more of a me video, which is for my birthday. Okay, there's a me video, there is all these things along my life, those karmic things or those mkultra things. um, you're supposed to be one of the whistleblowers. You're trained for that. Okay, you're trained for that. My God, I was so, the channel of communication was so blocked. You receive some information, you get it approved, and then you want to ask questions, you want to this, and sometimes when the other person wants with mediumship, okay, the other person, they want to tell you but you can't. Like, I couldn't listen. I could not listen. And there's all these assaults and you block information. It's that everybody pissed. It's like, you think you know everything. Like, wait, and I need to get there myself. And they're like, and you block this. And so it's like, why are they so insistent? Every time it's like, they're so insistent. I block this and I block that and I block that and I block that and I block that and I make a space. And it's like, boom, you are supposed to be the assassin. Okay. I didn't know that. And that's how they could do that. Okay. Of all these people that were left alive, none of them got a Sun 22 Scorpio. So not only they didn't take down Peter, by the time I knew the name Peter, he already spoke against the WHO. And of course I would find out, with Mars is Scorpio, of course I would find out. Next to his son, of course I would find out. Next to his son his son on RTL. Oh, damn. And yeah. Fuck. And the more that backfires, I feel this Itamar person is kind of like, fuck. Why? And I honestly don't understand why. I'm like, I don't know, go live your life. Okay, so it didn't work with me. Okay, fine. But the more you try, the more I expose it. Like, fuck. What fuck? I was supposed to be the assassin. Okay. Of course I'm going to say that.